Greetings all, D&Disability and Tonka here. This time we're here to talk about the true killers of tables, spectators, and the saviors of many a DM's sanity assistants.
And also, we'll be talking about button pushers later, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that. But let's start with the tater. What's a spectator anyway?
Well, spectators are the players that aren't here to engage with the game. They are the ones who want to watch other players have fun, listen to epic descriptions, and be talked at for hours at a time. They feel like by simply being present at the game, they are participating in it. They are included in it. Ultimately, spectators are just along for the ride and really might jump in at specific points throughout the campaign, but really won't ever steal the show, or, they're going to falter when they're hit with questions from the DM, or, how does your character respond, or stuff like that. Many of the spectator players I find come from experiences watching Critical Role and other streamers where they're a part of all of this, but they don't know how to get in.
Right. Well, I mean, they can't all be that bad, right? I mean, but is that even playing the game? I mean, I like to watch football, but I don't think I'm actually playing it when I'm watching it.
Yeah, they're an odd duck. I've had many players over the years fall into the spectator bracket. I really have. And I don't know if it's because of, say, autism, depression, social anxiety. Many external factors, particularly for those of us with disabilities, can push us into the spectator role. Even just being around a new crowd and not being sure of what are these players like? What is this table like? That can kind of push us into a spectator role temporarily, and that's okay. But true spectators are ones that never really come out of it. So, in a sense, they really are that bad because they don't add to the game. They're technically playing, but only because they're taking up space at the table. To me, it seems as though the spectator comes out of this new wave of consumer content, or, watch content. Critical Role, PAX D&D, and the other, 200 D&D games being streamed on the platform. Instead of watching the show, they're trying to play D&D or, whatever TTRPG, but they don't really know how. I've seen, once again, those of us with autism, neurodivergent, social anxiety, and depression fall into this category. I've seen both new and experienced players become spectators because they've been too scared or shy to emerge or engage with content without sometimes greater context. And the extreme opposite of this can be the simulationist, one who needs full immersion to break out of that shell. And if we go back to the latter case, engaging without context, we can see how players can snap out of it. They can overcome their spectator nature. And really, any of us can, but it does often mean more work. Like all things, it's work to not be a spectator. It's work for those of us with disabilities, even to just play games.
Well, yeah, that's true, and I've been guilty of being a spectator before, but it was like you said, it was at a new table. I didn't really know the people there, and so I was just kind of sitting back until I got a feel for the table, and then I was able to jump right in. But what about the flip side? What about the assistants?
Well, an assistant is really the ultimate DM aid. They look up rules, they summarize player actions, they reference spells, they keep players on track, they often are the ones that take detailed notes, they can summarize why the party is there, or whatever quest they're doing, or whatever plot element is going forward. Whatever you need to push the play forward, assistants are there to help. Some assistants may know your character sheet better than you do. If you have a table that's larger than 5 players, really, in my opinion, an assistant is mandatory to keep the game running smoothly. Now, assistants can go overboard. This manifests really in two forms. One, the domineering form that mimics the power gamer or war gamer, where they try to dominate other player decisions and dictate the best action that other players could take. This is all in the name of trying to help. The assistant is kind of just using you like a puppet, and they're probably not realizing they're doing it. The assistant may often miss or misinterpret someone's intentions, and this can be compounded by the DM when they have their players' wishes then misunderstood or ignored because they're being filtered through yet another person. It's not direct player DM interaction, it's player to assistant, assistant to DM interaction. This point is easily negated simply if that player speaks up and makes a correction. However, you, as the player, must remember to make sure your goals are properly understood, whether it's by the assistant. Sometimes the assistant's called the caller, by the way. That's another name for them. And it's our job to make sure that both the caller and the DM understand what's going on at the table. Because remember, miscommunications can happen, and they can be a breaking point for those of us with disabilities. It's usually the little things, I find, that add up to create problems and resentment in games. It's that straw that breaks the camel's back. However, let's get into the other side, the button pusher.
The dark side of the assistants. But I am going to go on record as saying button pushers are the best when played correctly. There, I said it.
Okay. Well, let's define kind of what a button pusher is. I see the button pusher as kind of an assistant gone wrong, in a way. They see themselves as helping the DM and the party engage with the world because they interact with everything. However, if taken to the extreme, they can be annoying, often get their characters killed, and sometimes get other characters killed as well. Players with ADHD typically fall into this category. And for those of us with ADHD, it's because of the need to stay engaged. And a side effect of this can be the attention hog, but it can also be the button pusher. And this can make the button pusher seem bad, but really they aren't always that bad. I'm just putting the cart before the horse. If you have a table full of apathetic players, or even worse, spectators, players that simply are unsure where to go, what to do, or how to do it, the button pusher is king. The button pusher is there to help. Button pushers, like role players, will be the first to interact with NPCs, objects, points of interest. As long as you have one at your table, your game will always be moving. It might not be moving forward or in the direction you want or expected, but it will always be moving.
Well, and this will be a shock to you, I'm sure, but I'm kind of known for being a button pusher. And there was one time that I was on a streaming show and I was playing a button pusher, and that character kind of became a crowd favorite. But unlike the button pushers you've talked about, my character didn't actually act until it was the other group was paralysis by analysis. You know, they would get locked into debating what to do next. And my attention span isn't the greatest in the world. And so I didn't want to spend 10 minutes discussing what we should do. So it was just, okay, well, my character is just going to do this.
Exactly. And what were the results?
Well, the results were always a laugh, right? Because that's mainly why I did the button pushing, was for a laugh. For example, there was one situation where we were playing Gamma World. We kind of fought our way into this room, and my character was only 18 inches tall. And everybody was afraid of this one android that was had all these wires plugged into him. But the whole shtick of my character was because he was 18 inches tall, he was used to the quote bigs treating him as a child, so he would act like a child, right? In a disarming way. And so they were afraid of him, and they were all sitting back. What should we do? What should we do? What should we do? And because I wanted to push a button and make the action move forward, my character did what he always did when faced with a stranger. He would lift his arms up in the international sign of a baby saying, "Pick me up," started giggling and walking toward the android. But my shenanigans, though, never caused other characters to be in danger. They would sometimes put my character in danger, but not too much danger that I couldn't quickly get out of, because I'm not there to get my character killed, and I'm not there to get other characters killed. I like to play button pushers simply because It's like what you say, it keeps the action moving forward. And button pushers, when done, I'll say it again, when done correctly, they're great. They're great for a laugh. If you want to be a cool button pusher, then hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give the kobold the finger and hit the like button, and leave a comment below of spectators and button pushers in your games.
Now, before we wrap up here, I do have one kind of controversial hot take. Is the player that always charges in, the Leroy Jenkins, if you will, the one that always runs face first into danger because they're the big dumb fighter and that's what they do, are they a button pusher? I kind of think they are.
Well, yeah, they 100% are, I would think. But there again, to me, that's a button pusher gone wrong, right? Because a button pusher should be there, and not necessarily to push every button or to pull every lever, but just when the group begins to stall and the flow of the game begins to stall, it kind of goes back to being able to read a table, right? And if the flow of the game begins to stall, then sometimes you need a button pusher to just push a random button to see what happens, just so the rest of the players have something to react to.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks for joining me here today. This has been our video on, of course, spectators and the assistant, and of course, probably the better of the two, the button pusher. So, with that, take it easy, and I'll see you next week.